Calder, what are the common contributing factors to wrong procedure surgeries? Meaning, that a doctor performs a surgery on you, and it's the might be in the right place, but it's the wrong surgery or something like that. Do they differ from those that lead to those wrong site or wrong patient surgeries? Are they a little bit different than that?
Sure. So there's a lot of overlap, but there are some differences. I mean, you'll see a lot of the same issues. Hospitals have policies and procedures in place to ensure that you're doing the right procedure in the right place on the correct patient. And there's a lot of safeguards and checklists in place that the medical professionals need to go through before every surgery to ensure that these things don't happen. And for both and for all of a wrong patient, wrong site, wrong procedure, there are a lot of common things we see that could cause any one of those three, such as skipping some of these policies and procedures or rushing through them or relying on sloppy documentation or having poor communication between the members of the surgery team. But what can be unique to a wrong procedure is such as similarly named procedures and confusion between the team members as to what type of procedure we're actually doing here. It could even come before the procedure. You could have misinterpreted test results that the surgical team is then relying on, especially in today's medical settings and the way hospitals are. Often it's not the doctor who saw them in the office and performed the test. It's not the radiologist or the pathologist who looked at the test results. It's an entirely separate surgeon, an entirely separate surgical team that oftentimes has never met this patient before and is just relying on all that past documentation and communications. And not only could those documentation errors occur in the individual patient's medical records, it could also just occur on the scheduling. You could put the wrong procedure on the scheduling for the operating room that day. And it's those types of things that can happen before or during the procedure that can lead to a wrong procedure.
Right, or maybe the doctor is performing, four of one type of surgery that day, and then the fifth one is something slightly different, and he just gets kind of confused that, oh, I thought I had five of these, same procedure, and just goes ahead and does it without double checking, something like that. Yeah. Um, what is informed consent, and how is that specifically addressed in the context of a wrong procedure surgery? And what must a patient understand before consenting to a procedure?
Yeah, so what's really important to understand about informed consent is that it is not a piece of paper. It is a conversation. It's a conversation between the patient and the doctor about the procedure. What is the procedure? Why are we going to do it? What are the risks? What are the benefits? What are the possible complications? How is this procedure performed? And it's not enough that the doctor just lectures the patient on these things. He needs to ensure that the patient understands and comprehends and agrees, and only then does the signature on the consent form mean anything and carry this informed consent. And it's not just on the consent. This conversation needs to be documented separately in the medical records. What was said, what was discussed, what was asked. It's only then that you have this informed consent. In a wrong procedure, this is why you need to have the patient's understanding. What is this procedure? How do you do it? Why are we doing it? What are the alternatives that we're not doing? And if the patient understands all this and a different procedure is done, that's where you have a wrong procedure and a lack of informed consent, which can be an additional claim on top of just a medical negligence claim.
Here's a scenario, and you tell me whether or not this could happen or not. Could a doctor go in to do a certain procedure, like say they needed to take out a little portion of your kidney or something like that, and then they get in there, and then you find out afterwards that, oh, they said, yeah, we went in there and it looked like the damage was worse than we thought, so we just decided to take out your whole kidney, something like that, where the doctor just makes a decision in the middle of a surgery to do something that's more drastic or something that you didn't fully consent to. Could that be a wrong procedure as well?
Absolutely. Unless they discover some life-threatening condition that they need to address in that exact moment, they do not have consent to perform that procedure. If they feel it needs done then and there and have time, you need to wake the patient up and take them off of the general anesthesia. Make sure that they are conscious and comprehending again, get their senses about them, and then have another conversation with them and get their understanding to once again get informed consent for this new thing. The doctor does not have free reign to address any and all issues that they find once the patient is opened up.
What specific safeguards should hospitals have in place to verify that the intended procedure is the correct one, before it begins, and how can breakdowns in those safeguards be prevented?
Yeah, so interesting. All hospitals across the country have the same policies and procedures, the universal protocol, where they verify with the patient that we have the correct patient name, date of birth, medical record number, what procedure we've discussed with your doctor, with the surgeon that we're going to perform, where it's going to be performed. And they do this multiple times before the procedure, when the patient first gets there, and again, once the patient is on the operating table with the team there. And it's very important that the patient is a part of these conversations. Again, this is one of the breakdowns we'll see where the patient's already under anesthesia, or they skip one of these steps with the patient, or they're just simply relying on the schedule or the documentation in the medical records, or that they're simply not communicating effectively between each of the members of the team.
And in a wrong procedure surgery case, what legal arguments are typically used to establish negligence on the part of the medical team and the hospital as a whole?
So these are interesting because first and foremost, you have your medical negligence claim, which is a breach of the standard of care. You performed a procedure that was not intended or needed, or done incorrectly, and that caused injury to the patient, and that injury is measurable in an amount of damages. But in addition to that general medical negligence claim, you have a lack of informed consent, which is a separate claim in Ohio. And you can even have a battery claim depending on it, which again is touching the patient without their consent or permission. And you can also have a claim for corporate negligence against the hospital and its administration. Did they have the proper policies and procedures in place? Did they actually implement them and not just put them on a piece of paper and put them in a drawer? Were their employees and medical providers trained on these? Were they oriented on them? Were they held accountable to them? If not, that liability goes directly to the hospital itself.
Okay. And then beyond just the immediate physical harm of having a wrong procedure done on you, what are the potential long-term consequences for a patient who undergoes a wrong procedure?
Yeah, I mean, it could be a lot of long-term effects of having a completely wrong procedure performed on you. I mean, the surgeon is cutting into your body and altering your physiology so that you could need a corrective surgery. You could be permanently and substantially deformed. Could need assistive devices to help with, whatever the surgery, the effects of that surgery. You could need long-term care or medication. But there's also obvious emotional and mental effects of going under general anesthesia and waking up to find that something completely different was done to your body. Uh, we often see just a complete lack of trust in the medical professional, not only just never wanting to be put under anesthesia again, but not trusting, your doctor's advice or going to see a doctor.